and welcome back once again, adventurers, to Let's Play ChäoS Child. In the last episode, Takuru was struggling to escape the merciless gaze of the sumo stickers, the real sumo stickers, renditions of the infamous 11th Rorschach, when he had run into none other than Hinae Arimura in the streets of Shibuya. However, Hinae wasn't the only one whose paths Takuru Miyashiro would end up crossing on this night. For the woman who has been hunting him, Amy, or rather Senri Minamisawa, has finally crossed paths with him. And not only is she a gigalomaniac, she is capable of using pyrokinesis, the ability to conjure fire. But, right when it seemed as if all hope would be lost, she vanished into the night. But, can't really rest on that reprieve. But, in any event, Takuru and Hinae have managed to make it to Aoba Clinic.
とりあえずここなら平気だと思う。
Should be, if only. Of course, the reason that we're even here is to talk with Nano Kurusu. After the attack by the pyrokinetic woman, I'd finally fled with Arimura to Aoba Dorm. I could probably get treatment for my burns here. We need to get inside. The front door was locked. I've been so busy running that I've forgotten how late it was.
鍵まだ隠してあるといいけど。
Yeah. Be useful to have a spare key. I've been given a key to the dorm, but I didn't usually carry it on me. But when I lived here, there was a spare key hidden on the grounds. I decided to look for it. And here's hoping. Well, at least fortune smiles at us upon us at least once this evening. Fortunately, the key was right where I remembered it. Part of me thought it wasn't a good idea to leave it in the same place all the time, but today I was grateful. As we should be. We made it to safety at last. As I went into the exam room, Arimura still stood hesitantly by the entrance. I motioned for her to sit in the exam chair. Yeah, we're going to have to explain these burns to everyone. Of course, the physical wounds are one thing. The mental wounds caused by the sumo stickers are an entirely different matter. Good. I'd gotten a little used to it, but I still didn't like the idea of touching her skin. Which is a good thing. I got some medicine, some cotton wool, and some adhesive bandages off the shelf and handed them to her. Wouldn't be a clinic if they didn't have these supplies. Since this was a clinic, a lot of the medicines were for use by professionals, but they were labeled in clearly written Japanese, so there was no way I could screw them up. Every time a new drug came in, it was Kurusu's job to make the label and stick it on. She always said that if she didn't, Yui, Yuto, and I might take some by accident. Yeah, in this case, Kurusu's, yeah, judgment is well deserved. She'll always been the type to worry about things like that. Just a sensible thing. I'd always been told to make sure to straighten up my shoes when I took them off, or not to put my socks in the laundry inside out. She made me help with a lot of the cooking too, didn't she? That she did.
何考えてんだ僕は。
I shook my head, shocked that I was thinking about those things when something much more important was going on.
宮代先輩はここでクルス先輩たちと一緒に暮らしてるんですか?
Nothing gets by you, does it? Hinae Arimura. The disinfectant must have stung because she was wincing.
暮らしてたんだよ。少し前まで。
じゃあ今は？
今は別の場所で一人で暮らしてる。
Yeah, Miyashita Park, in an RV trailer. It's actually not that bad.
一人暮らしですか。いいですね。
まあね。有村は
I hadn't really meant anything by it. I was just where the conversation was leading.
知りたいですか？
あ、いや、言いたくないならいいんだけど。
いいですよ、別にそれくらい。私は親戚の家で暮らしてます。実家ちょっと遠いので。
そうか。
She was jealous of me living alone. Did that mean she wasn't getting along with her relatives?
あ、言っておきますけど、別に親戚の家でいじめられてるとか、そういう昭和のドラマみたいなことはないですから。
I don't think that was the vibe that Takuru was getting.
いえ、変に誤解されても嫌だなと思って。
I don't think it's us that's getting the wrong idea.
別に誤解なんてしてない。
やっぱり思ってたんですね。
I think the only thing we intuited was that you didn't get along, not that they were abusing you. That's right, she had that power. Having her know if I was telling the truth or not made things difficult.
でも
It was probably difficult for Arimura herself to know what someone was really thinking, whether she wanted to or not. That sort of explained how she acted at school. Unless she kept things on a superficial level, acting like a goofball and telling jokes, she'd know what everyone really felt, and it would crush her.
はい、終わりました。先輩もどうぞ。
うん。
Since Arimura seemed to have finished, I sat down in a chair to take care of my own injuries. And at the same time, the door in the back softly opened.
誰？タクル？
In the flesh. Oh no. I'd hoped that Kurusu would be asleep. Another hope that's dashed. No, I'd actually come to talk to her about something important. But after the pyrokinetics attack, I decided against it. If she saw me injured like this, she would have worried, so I planned to talk to her tomorrow instead.
何か音が聞こえるから気になって。こんな時間にどうし。
And then she realized that there was another girl in the room.
有村さん？お邪魔してまーす。
Yeah, this is not going well.
違うんだ、これは。
I wasn't out on some kind of weird late night date with her, and then we got into a big fight where both of us got hurt. Yeah, with flames and burning and everything. But before I could say something which would probably only make her more suspicious, Kurusu saw us both and went pale.
二人とも怪我してるじゃない。
Yeah, that we are.
これは。
I knew this was coming. Her own injury hadn't healed yet, so when I saw how worried she looked, it pricked at my heart.
貸して。手当て必要なんでしょ？いいから貸しなさい。
あ。
Kurusu grabbed the medicines I was carrying and started to patch me up.
いやいや、もう大丈夫っすよ。私はもう自分で。そんな適当な処置じゃダメ。後になったらどうするの？でもは聞きません。わかったわね。
Yeah, Kurusu is a very different firebrand.
はい。
Kurusu's no-nonsense attitude was enough to overwhelm even Arimura. She sat still and let Kurusu do whatever she wanted. When she was finished, she started on me.
で、何があったの？
Yeah, I hope you have time for a long story, because it's...
ああ、それは。
Yeah, we can't avoid it. What was I supposed to tell her?
できるだけ驚かさないように伝えるべきなんだろうけれど。
That's not going to be easy. Or possible.
私たち、襲われたんです。
ってストレートすぎるだろ、有村。
Arimura came straight out and told her while I was hesitating. Well...
襲われた？はい。炎を操る力を持った女に。
Yeah, she's, not gonna hide anything, I see. Not mincing words. Kurusu's expression started to cloud over.
だから有村、余計なこと言うなよ。
There's no helping it, I'm afraid. I glared at her, but Arimura just shook her head.
こういう時は変に隠すとかえって嘘っぽくなるんですよ、先輩。相手にも余計な心配をかけます。 つうか、宮代先輩の嘘って私の能力なんかなくても分かりやすいですし。
Unfortunately, Hinae is right.
あ、
Got you there,
有
Takuru.
村さんの言う通りだわ。ちゃんと話して。
Yeah. And speaking of truths, there is one you need to tell us. Or rather, Takuru. I guess I didn't have a choice. I told Kurusu what had just happened, carefully choosing my words so as not to scare her, which is a moot point. While I spoke, I had flashbacks to the terror I'd felt during the attack, and my voice started to shake, but I couldn't help that.
ということで、理由は僕たちにもわからないんだ。でも、あの女は間違いなく僕たちを狙ってきた。
Everything I said sounded unrealistic, even to me, but Kurusu intently listened to every word. She just sat there and listened, the melancholic expression on her face.
宮代先輩。
Harimoto suddenly looked at me and spoke.
見えますかそれ。
え？
Only then did I realize I'd been so busy talking that I hadn't noticed, but something appeared in the corner of my vision. Yeah, over here. It is a very familiar shape. We caught a glimpse of it in the last episode. Yeah, Gigolomaniacs can perceive certain shapes that can manifest anywhere and everywhere they go. But as long as the D-Sword remains in this form, it can't actually be, well, yeah, it takes a great amount of will to be able to actually draw it from its sheath, so to speak.
これは。
When I remembered the terror I felt during the attack, had it brought this back as well? There was no mistaking it. Yeah. It takes a certain degree of emotion to manifest the D-Sword for a
デ
Gigolomaniac.
ィソード。
I whispered the words to myself and tried to visualize it more clearly. And then the hazy, indistinct image began to take shape. I reached out my hand towards the bizarre object. But
なんだこれ。どういうことだ。
for some reason I couldn't touch it.
タクル？何をしているの？
剣があるんだ、ここに。
剣？やっぱり出せるようになったんですね。自分のディソード。
Harimoto said, yeah, no, we still can't draw the sword.
自分の。
はい。それが先輩のディソードですよ。ディソード。
An illusory sword that could only be seen with the power to make delusions real.
僕はやっぱり能力者なのか。
Indeed, you're a Gigolomaniac.
だからずっと言って
Congratulations.
るじゃないですか。そうだって。
じゃあさっきの女、あれはやっぱり僕を。
And she was.
だと思います。私を狙った可能性ももちろんありますけど。
What I've been afraid of had become real. That woman. Her eyes. Her appearance. And her flames. The burn marks on our bodies told me that this wasn't a dream. It was real, and it is. And it's only going to get even more real from here. At this rate I would be killed, like the victims in Don't Look at Me and Revolving Dead.
どうして。
I think Kurusu has the answer to that question. Why was this happening to me? And you yourself hold a piece of the puzzle.
有村さん。
Kurusu suddenly interrupted our conversation.
なんでしょう。あなたの知っていること、全部私に教えて。どうしてですか？
Well, to throw your own words back at you, you can't lie. Not to her.
誰が何のためにこんな事件を起こしているのか調べるの。
おい。
Yeah, the complete and total opposite of how she was when all this first started, but she doesn't have a choice anymore. We're all in this now. Stunned, I leaned in toward Kurusu.
お前、事件には関わるなってずっと言って。
でももう遅いんでしょ。この先もタクルや有村さんが狙われるかもしれないのよね。
And more besides.
クルス。
I noticed earlier that something seemed a little strange about Kurusu. She told me so many times not to get involved in anything dangerous that I was sure that when I told her what had happened tonight, she'd freak out. That's why even when I'd fled here, I still hadn't wanted to see her. But after I told her, instead of looking angry or raising her voice, her expression was firm and resolved. It's called acceptance, Takuru.
セリカから聞いてるかもしれないけど、話しておきたいことがあるの。
Serica didn't tell us tell Takuru actually, which is why he's here. So that you can fill in the not the final pieces of the puzzle, but one of the final pieces at any rate.
実は私、あなたに言ってないことがあって。
Yeah, another secret.
言ってないこと。
I felt a sudden pain in my heart. Her words reminded me of last time, when I was told that my parents were murdered. When I'd found out that the family rule at Aoba Dorm, that nobody kept secrets, didn't apply to me, just everyone else. When I found out I was the only person who was different from the rest of my family. And I knew Kurusu remembered it too, which led to the fallout. She'd almost brought herself to the verge of saying something, but her memories came back and stopped her. She kept opening and closing her mouth, only to finally fall silent. I almost never saw her like this.
クルス、僕なら大丈夫だ。
I balled my hands tightly into fists, as if I were trying to tell this to myself too.
今の僕はあの時とは違うよ。多分。だから聞かせてくれ。
In any event, we need to know.
タクル。
Was I just imagining things, or did Kurusu's eyes get a little weird? Yeah, that's true. He is about to cry, but with happiness, not sadness. I couldn't bear to look at her, so I continued.
とにかく、言ってないことってのを聞かないと、何が何だかわかんないだろ。
そうね。そうよね。ごめんなさい。
And then she slowly started to speak. This is what she said.
今度の事件、私は無関係じゃないの。
I never even expected that. Kurusu was involved in the case? Well, she's getting to that, Takuru. What does she mean?
この前、あなたたちが忍び込んだっていう病院ね。
AH 東京総合病院。
ええ、その病院の地下のこと、私、前から知っていた。
So Kurusu knew.
は？
And not just from Takuru. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was so sudden and surprising that I couldn't even follow it. The basement under AH Tokyo General Hospital. She knew about that terrifying place. Why? How?
昔、千里がね。
Ah, I see.
南沢、千里のことよ。
And there it
南
is.
沢千里？
Yeah. I'm surprised you haven't put two and two together, Takuru. I had to stop myself from reaching out and grabbing her by the shoulders.
どうして彼女？
それは、ね。
Kurusu paused and looked away. And then she showed me the phone in her hands.
これよ。
There was a picture on the phone. A happily smiling boy and two girls. The picture was old, but I recognized one of the girls as Kurusu and the boy as Kawahara. And there was a girl with them who had very gloomy eyes. And it should finally dawn on you, Takuru. It was without a doubt the girl whose data I'd seen in the facility, the one called Senri Minamisawa.
そうか。思い出した。南沢って名前、どこかで聞いたことがあると思ったんだ。
It was during the culture festival. Kawahara had said,
特に。俺とあともう一人。地震で死んじまったけど、南沢ってやつはいつもクルスと一緒にいた。3人でよくつるんでたんだよ。川原くんが言ってた。南沢って子が一緒だったって。
そう。この写真を撮った頃の私たちはいつも一緒に遊んでいたのよ。
Senri Minamisawa, who had been subjected to those awful human experiments, used to be Kurusu's friend, and yeah, unfortunately, Takuru's mind hasn't made the final leap of connection. That we've already met, or we've already had our reunion with Senri Minamisawa. But of course,
千里はね、毎週日曜日にあの病院に通っていたわ。
じゃあ、クルスは。
The back of my throat had gone dry and hurt terribly.
クルスは、あそこで何が行われていたのかも知ってたのか。
Maybe she did. Kurusu bit her lip and slowly nodded. Another revelation.
当時子供だった私にはどうしようもなかったの。それが悔しくて悲しくて。
Kurusu looked down. Her face was twisted with pain as if she were being tortured. Which is not an inaccurate analogy. She was a strong girl. She was a girl with a strong sense of right and wrong. Knowing her friend was being experimented on must have been terrible for her. Did Kurusu maybe go through the same trauma that I did?
でも今はもう子供じゃない。逃げるわけにはいかないわ。私も事件のことを知っておかなきゃいけない。
Yeah. That we do.
そうじゃないと誰も守れない。
クルス。
有村さん、お願い。全部教えて。
There's no point hiding it now. Was that really the right thing to do? Maybe, maybe not, but it can't be helped. I put Kurusu in danger before, and now it's sending her down a dangerous path again. A path that we would walk down without a moment's hesitation if it were offered.
仕方ないですね。
No, we don't.
待ってくれ、有村。
I tried to stop Arimoto, but Kurusu cut me off.
ねえ、タクル。今日あなたたちに怪我をさせたのが誰なのか、それはわからないわ。けど、また襲ってくる可能性があるんでしょ？
Yeah, they're definitely going to come back. Also, as I keep hinting and pointing out, you do know who hurt us, because she is the one that we were just talking about a moment ago. But, oh, who am I kidding? They're not going to make that connection. Unless they see it for
何も
themselves.
知らないままじゃ、私は何もしてあげられない。 ただうろたえるだけで何もできない。そんなの嫌なのよ。だから全部聞かせて、私にも。
Nothing we can say to that.
羨ましいですね。あ、いえ、なんでもないです。で、クルス先輩に話しちゃってもいいんですか？
ああ。
He slowly nodded.
でも有村、クルスを巻き込む前に一つだけ聞いてもいいか？
私にですか？
僕はお前のことまだよくわからない。正直信じていいのかどうかも。
なるほど、そうでしょうね。
でもなんていうか、今は悪いやつじゃないような気がしてるんだ。だから聞いておきたいんだけど。
だから何をです？
お前は少なくとも僕らの敵じゃないんだよな。お前のせいで僕の大事な誰かが死んだりしないよな。
Arimura thought for a moment as she looked at me and Kurusu in turn. And then...
まあ、さっきは宮代先輩に助けてもらいましたし、恩をあだで返すってのもどうかと思うんで誓っときます。私のことは先輩たちの味方だと思ってて問題ないですよ。
Yep. Well, we've all been through our own ordeals.
そっか。
おっと、ただしベタベタ慣れ合ったりするのとか大嫌いなんで、その辺はよろしく。
Very much so. And then she smiled just a little. That may have been the first time I'd seen a real smile from her. October 12th, 2015, Monday. We're back with Shinjo. Shinjo looked up at the huge white building and sighed loudly. H Tokyo General Hospital. Scoping out the place, I see. After Kurusu's report, he decided to visit it himself. It was almost midnight. Here alone with no backup? Not very smart. Visiting hours were long over and he didn't have an official warrant. He was here entirely of his own volition. But as he saw it, he was never getting a warrant the usual way, so this was his only shot. Normally he would want to slowly, painstakingly build up a case, but it seemed to him that searching this hospital was so important that there just wasn't time to spare.
久野里美代の話が本当であることをまず確かめる。そうすれば令状なんていくらでも出るようになるはずだ。
exposing the basement facility is going to be no small feat. Takeshi. After his own investigations, he'd found that something strange had started happening here in 2007, 2 years before the earthquake. At the time, there was a treatment facility here in Shibuya called the Arcade Medical Association that was involved with some kind of cult. On the surface, it was a mental health clinic staffed with talented doctors from university hospitals. On the surface, that is. There was no way to know what they'd actually been doing, but evidently some people had suspected they were brainwashing troubled patients. Oh, they were doing more than that. The experiments that certain individuals within the hospital, yeah, they were definitely doing much more than just brainwashing. But suddenly the facility was reborn as a hospital with a non-profit assisted living facility. And all the doctors at Arcade Medical had fired were rehired at Tokyo General Hospital. And then 6 years ago, there was the New Generation Madness. The fifth victim in that case. We know only too well. Fumio Takashina, the victim of the so-called brain-dead case, who had been kept alive for a week after his brain had been removed. He'd worked at Tokyo General Hospital. He was a good man.
一体なんだこの気味の悪い符号は。
Too many to count. There was too much that seemed suspicious.
こういう時先輩ならどうする？
And then he shook his head. Do it your own way. That's what they would have said. Either way, if he could get proof of what was in this facility's basement, the case would take a whole different turn. Even if there was something big lurking in the shadows behind this case, if he presented incontrovertible proof, the police would have no choice but to act. It wasn't just about the facility after all. There were a lot of people involved too. There are. The lives and dignity of the victims who have been turned into test subjects also mattered.
人体実験か。胸くその悪い話だ。
Every year, almost 100,000 people went missing. That total was the number of people who once lived in Raccoon City. If some of them had been forced into these experiments, that was a big problem.
それじゃあ一ついきますか。
Looks like he's doing this. His voice was somehow relaxed, yet driven as he headed into the hospital. He'd learned and memorized the location of the facility from Kurusu. He snuck in from the AR loading zone and headed to the basement. The temperature there was clearly different from the areas above. And then he went to the autopsy room, with its concealed passageway.
確かここに地下への入り口があると。
He opened the breaker box and saw the card reader inside.
こいつか。
He held out the card key that Kurusu had given him. And he heard the sound of an opening door.
なるほどね。こりゃ尋常じゃないな。
Yes, it is, right beneath Shibuya. There was a hidden staircase in the back of the autopsy room. A part of him hadn't believed it until he'd seen it for himself, but now he was essentially sure. A normal hospital wouldn't need something like this. Shinjo stopped for a moment to take a breath, then headed down the stairs. I won't be celebrating so soon. There was an old hallway at the bottom. It smelled of mold and dust. When he turned on his pen light, he saw that it was an old facility and the walls were falling apart.
でも間違いなくここは使われている。
That it is. If no one visits a building, it rots away. Unless someone uses it every day, it won't last long. But this place was different. It was old, but he was nearly certain someone was using it. Question is
確
who?
かこの先だと言ってたな。
Yeah, just remember to follow Mio's directions there, Shinjo. Shinjo followed the directions that Kurusu had given him as he headed toward his goal. Thanks for listening to my advice. His first stop was the monitoring room, which would have critical information on the facility. He wanted the data in the computer there. And then he wanted to find the room where the victims of the experiments were being kept. He turned down many corridors as he headed for his destination. The cell-like rooms he saw on the way concerned him, but they could wait for later. Right now, his biggest job was to get the evidence he needed. Shinjo finally found the spot he was looking for. Amazed he's actually managed to get to this point. Don't want to jinx it for him. He used the card key to unlock the door. Then he swallowed and put his hand on the doorknob. When he got inside, he saw...
No.
He quickly ran to the other room, the prison where Ugi Yamazoe had kept the test subjects.
冗談じゃない。まさか。
He quickly found the room and flung it open the door. And then he stood still in astonishment. There was... nothing there. No victims, no beds. Yeah, looks like our previous sojourn has drawn some... had some negative setbacks. None of the things that Kurusu told him about. The monitoring room had been empty too. There were no security cameras, no computers. Nothing at all. All that remained was the simple fact that there was nothing left at all. Yeah. They've definitely cleaned house.
なあ、宮代。部活行くんだろ
And for Takuru Miyashiro, today is another day at Hakio Academy. And that is going to bring an end to this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Child. And when we return, Seems as though it's business as usual. If only things were that simple. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.